Maple Hollow, Ohio. It was a place that seemed to exist outside the relentless churn of the modern world, a quiet pocket of perceived serenity. Here, people still offered a genuine, unhurried wave to folks they passed on the sidewalk, a small but significant acknowledgement of their shared, peaceful existence. Children, inheriting the traditions of their parents and grandparents, rode their bicycles with unbridled joy, their laughter echoing through the streets until the familiar glow of the streetlights summoned them home at dusk. The undisputed highlight of the summer, the event the entire town eagerly anticipated, was the county fair. A vibrant, nostalgic celebration of local culture and simple, heartfelt pleasures. In Maple Hollow, safety wasn't merely a civic policy, it felt intrinsically woven into the very fabric of the town, an unspoken, unwavering promise. It was a comforting, predictable way of life, where neighbors knew each other intimately not just by name but by their daily routines, their quiet triumphs, their shared sorrows. Life here moved at a slower, more deliberate, more human pace. It was, by all appearances, a sanctuary, or so everyone fervently believed before the carefully constructed illusion was violently torn away. Eight-year-old Connor Jameson. He was, by all accounts, the bright, vibrant center of his devoted parents' world. A spirited, energetic young boy, quick with an infectious, gap-toothed grin that could melt any heart. That fateful morning he wore his absolute favorite navy blue cap, pulled down characteristically low over his bright, inquisitive eyes. A vibrant, almost defiant red hoodie, a vivid splash of youthful color against the lush green tapestry of a Maple Hollow summer. And slung securely on his small back, a black backpack, proudly and chaotically adorned with an eclectic assortment of superhero patches, each one a tiny stitched badge of imaginary courage and grand, unspoken adventure. He was in essence a typical kid, brimming with boundless, uncontainable life and the beautifully simple, innocent dreams of childhood. He was merely heading to school, just as he did on any other weekday morning. His ordinary, predictable morning routine commenced, as always, just a little after 7:45 a.m., a specific, now tragically significant time. A seemingly innocuous, unremarkable departure. The quiet, unassuming start of a day that should have been filled with the mundane joys of learning, the easy camaraderie of playground laughter, and the simple, uncomplicated pleasures of being young and carefree. His well-established route to school was a familiar, comforting groove deeply etched into the very fabric of his young, unfolding life. Down Mulberry Street he would confidently walk, a path he knew as intimately as his own reflection. Past the bakery with its tantalizing sweet scent that served as a daily, almost irresistible temptation. Then a quick, practiced dash across the vacant lot, a well-used shortcut known to all the local children, a small, exhilarating daily adventure in itself. And from that point it was a straight, unhindered shot to the familiar, welcoming gates of Maple Hollow Elementary. It was a journey he had undertaken countless times before, always feeling cocooned in a sense of safety and absolute security. He likely knew every single crack in the weathered sidewalk, every particularly generous shady tree along the way, the distinct color of every front door he routinely passed. This was his trusted path to knowledge, to his cherished friends, to the steady, predictable rhythm of his structured day, a path invariably taken without a single flicker of apprehension or fear. But on that particular Thursday morning, something went catastrophically, inexplicably wrong. Connor Jameson never arrived at Maple Hollow Elementary. The response from law enforcement was swift, a coordinated surge of activity cutting through the morning's disbelief. Within 30 minutes of Dana Jameson's desperate call, the quaint, idyllic town of Maple Hollow underwent a stark, chilling transformation. Sirens, once distant and rare, now echoed ominously through familiar streets, their wails a constant, jarring reminder of the unfolding crisis. The missing child alert, broadcast with urgent repetition, painted Connor's innocent description, his navy blue cap, his red hoodie, his superhero backpack onto the canvas of every resident's growing dread. The ordinary rhythm of life had not just paused, it had been violently interrupted, replaced by a frantic, heart-pounding tempo of fear and desperate activity. Maple Hollow was no longer just a sleepy town, it was a search zone, a community holding its collective breath, united by a single, terrifying unknown. As the news spread, a wave of raw, communal anxiety washed over Maple Hollow. Neighbors, their faces etched with concern and disbelief, poured out of their homes, abandoning their daily routines without a second thought. They were driven by a primal need to act, to do something, anything to help find the missing boy. They formed impromptu search parties, their determined footsteps echoing on pavements that Connor himself had walked just hours before. Volunteers quickly organized, their hands trembling as they posted flyers bearing Connor's smiling face on every lamppost, every telephone pole, every storefront window. The image of the happy, carefree child became a ubiquitous, haunting presence, a silent plea for his safe return. The shared illusion of Maple Hollow's impenetrable bubble of safety had burst, leaving behind a cold, hard reality. The community, once defined by its tranquility, was now bound together by a shared agonizing fear. The hours ticked by with agonizing slowness, each passing minute amplifying the town's collective anxiety. By noon, the search had intensified significantly, a testament to the community's unwavering resolve and the escalating seriousness of the situation. A highly trained K-9 unit was brought in, the keen senses of the dogs offering a new, albeit slim, beacon of hope as they meticulously traced Connor's last known route. Their handlers, faces grim and focused, followed closely, scanning for any sign, any clue, however small. As dusk began to cast long, eerie shadows across the increasingly desperate town, the thrumming blades of a helicopter sliced through the evening air, its powerful searchlight methodically sweeping over the outskirts of Maple Hollow, probing the darkening fields and woods. But despite these exhaustive efforts, despite the fervent prayers whispered on every corner, there was still no sign of Connor Jameson. The hope that had fueled the initial frantic search began to flicker, threatened by a growing, chilling dread. Darkness finally settled over Maple Hollow not as a peaceful blanket but as a heavy, suffocating shroud. Then, at precisely 9:03 p.m., a discovery. Connor's backpack. It was found tucked away, almost hidden behind a row of recycling bins on Mulberry Street, the very street he lived on, the street he had walked down that morning. The backpack was empty, its zipper callously left open. The superhero patches, once symbols of childhood innocence and playful imagination, now seemed like cruel, mocking reminders of the boy who was gone. Its location was chillingly significant. It was found not far from an abandoned, derelict home number 39 Mulberry Street. A boarded-up, forgotten house that had stood vacant, decaying for nearly 2 decades. A silent, brooding structure that was about to become the focal point of an even deeper, more terrifying mystery. Number 39 Mulberry Street. It was a house that time in the town of Maple Hollow had seemingly forgotten. Locals whispered stories about its past, vague recollections of an older woman who had lived and died there many years ago. After her passing, the property had simply been left to its own devices, a slow, inexorable decay setting in. No one ever came to mow the overgrown, weed-choked lawn which now resembled a wild, untamed meadow. No one bothered to collect the mountain of yellowed mail that spilled from its rusted letterbox, a poignant testament to its long abandonment. The windows, once perhaps clear and welcoming, were now covered in thick layers of grime and cobwebs, obscuring whatever secrets lay within. The front porch sagged precariously under its own considerable weight, groaning a mournful protest with every gust of wind. It was a place that exuded an almost palpable aura of neglect and sorrow, a dark stain on an otherwise well-kept street. As officers meticulously combed the area surrounding the discovery of Connor's backpack, Officer Paul Keene, a veteran with a keen eye for details often missed by others, noticed something peculiar about the abandoned house. Something disturbingly out of place. It was a rear window, one that should have been boarded up like the others, or at the very least, caked with the same decades of filth. But this window was different. It was broken. Not shattered in a way that suggested random vandalism, with jagged shards of glass littering the ground outside. Instead, the break was clean, almost surgical. Deliberate. There was no shattered glass to be found on the exterior sill or the overgrown ground beneath it. This suggested the window had been broken from the inside, or perhaps carefully removed and then replaced. It was a subtle, yet profoundly unsettling observation. A silent alarm bell ringing in the experienced officer's mind. The following morning, as the sun cast its first pale rays over a still anxious Maple Hollow, authorities, armed with a warrant and a growing sense of foreboding, secured the perimeter of 39 Mulberry Street. The decision was made to enter. The air that greeted them as they forced open the decaying front door was thick, stale and heavy with the suffocating scent of decades of undisturbed dust and slow, insidious decay. Every surface, from the rotting floorboards to the peeling wallpaper, was coated in a ghostly gray film. It was a tomb of forgotten memories, a place where time itself seemed to have stopped. The silence within was profound, almost unnervingly absolute, broken only by the cautious, muffled sounds of the officers' own movements as they began their methodical, painstaking search of the desolate interior. The house felt cold, unwelcoming, as if resentful of their intrusion. But then, amidst the pervasive dust and decay of the kitchen, they saw them. Fresh footprints, small ones, unmistakably the prints of a child. They were shockingly out of place in this mausoleum of neglect, a stark, modern intrusion upon decades of undisturbed stillness. The tiny distinct tracks led away from the main kitchen area, heading directly towards an old, unassuming pantry door tucked away in a dimly lit corner. The sight sent a fresh jolt of adrenaline, mixed with a chilling premonition, through the seasoned officers. What had transpired in this forgotten derelict house? And where or what did those small, solitary footprints lead to? The silent, dusty house was beginning to whisper its secrets, and the investigators braced themselves for what they might find. The dread was a palpable entity in the stale air. Inside the pantry, the scene was initially unremarkable, a tableau of long-forgotten domesticity. The shelves were lined with canned goods, their labels faded and peeling, their contents long expired, relics of a bygone era. It seemed for a fleeting moment that the trail of footprints might lead to nothing more than another dead end in this house of forgotten things. But the officers, trained to look beyond the obvious, examined the space with meticulous care. Their attention was drawn to the back panel of the pantry shelving. It seemed slightly askew, not quite flush with the surrounding wall. Upon closer inspection, one officer found it, a small, almost invisible hidden latch, cleverly concealed from casual observation. With a soft, metallic click, the latch released. The back panel swung inward, revealing not solid wall, but a dark, gaping void. A concealed doorway, and beyond it, a narrow, crudely constructed staircase, descending ominously into an unknown darkness below. The discovery of the hidden staircase sent a fresh wave of unease through the investigative team. What they discovered at the bottom of those creaking makeshift steps was not just disturbing, it was profoundly unsettling, bearing the hallmarks of cold, chilling calculation. The subterranean room was small, cramped, and oppressively silent. In the center, a small mattress lay directly on the cold concrete floor. Upon it, a couple of thin, rumpled blankets. Nearby, several empty juice boxes were scattered, along with a half-eaten apple, its exposed flesh now browned and withered. Taped precariously to one of the damp concrete walls was a child's drawing, rendered in bright, innocent crayon colors that seemed grotesquely out of place in the otherwise grim surroundings. And then, in the far corner, almost hidden in shadow, they saw it. A navy blue cap, instantly recognizable, with the small yellow stitched initials, C.J. Connor's cap. But Connor himself was nowhere to be seen. The room was eerily, unnervingly silent. A profound, bone-chilling cold seemed to emanate from the very walls, a cold that had nothing to do with the subterranean location, and everything to do with the implied horror of what might have transpired there. It was a stillness that spoke volumes, a heavy blanket of dread that suffocated the air. There were no obvious signs of forced entry into this hidden chamber, no visible bloodstains, no indications of a violent struggle, just absence. A chilling, palpable void where a child should have been. It was the terrifyingly calm, almost staged nature of the scene that was most alarming. Everything seemed deliberately placed, meticulously arranged. This wasn't the chaotic aftermath of a spontaneous act. This felt planned, methodical, the work of a mind that was both patient and deeply disturbed. Then, another object caught their attention, lying partially concealed beneath one of the blankets on the small mattress. A walkie-talkie. It was powered off. Its surface, however, was covered in fingerprints. The forensics team would later confirm the presence of Connor's small prints as expected, but there were other prints too, larger, adult-sized, including a clear, partial print from an unknown adult male. This single, inanimate object, designed for communication, for connection, now screamed of a sinister, silent captor. The discovery of the walkie-talkie, with its damning blend of innocent and unknown fingerprints, immediately escalated the investigation from a desperate search for a missing child to a hunt for a potential abductor. The hidden basement at 39 Mulberry Street had yielded its first terrible secrets, and the picture emerging was far darker than anyone could have initially imagined. The investigation into Connor Jameson's disappearance quickly escalated. The stakes were impossibly high. The FBI joined local authorities, a formidable task force assembled. Forensics meticulously processed the hidden basement. Every surface, every discarded item, Connor's small fingerprints were there, and the partial print of an unknown adult male, a ghost they needed to identify. A desperate search for answers began, but the initial intensive forensic sweep yielded little. No DNA matches surfaced in CODIS, no viable fingerprint hits in APHIS. The unknown male remained a phantom, a frustrating invisible adversary. Frustration mounted within the tense task force. Leads seemed to evaporate into thin air. The silence from the databases was deafening. Each dead end felt like another blow. Hope dwindled with each fruitless search. Then, a potential breakthrough emerged. It came from an unexpected seasoned source. Retired Detective Allison Haynes. She had recently returned to Maple Hollow, seeking a quieter life, ironically. She couldn't stay away from this case. She dived deep into old town records, specifically property permits and deeds, for the cursed number 39 Mulberry Street. A hunch gnawed at her. Haynes painstakingly sifted through yellowed pages. She uncovered a name, Ronald Pierce, the sole registered owner of the house, since the year 2001. But the records held another chilling detail. Ronald Pierce was officially declared dead, drowned, they said. A tragic boating accident, off the rugged coast of Maine. The year of his death, 2005. More questions, deeper shadows. A dead man's house? Three agonizing days into the chilling investigation, the town remained on edge, tense, fearful. A strange package arrived without warning, delivered directly to the Maple Hollow Police Department. No return address, no postage stamp, just a plain, unassuming brown envelope. Its sudden appearance felt deeply ominous, a silent harbinger of more darkness. What new horror did it contain? The air in the station grew thick. Inside, officers found two disturbing items, an old standard audio cassette tape and a small, neatly typed note. 7 stark, unsettling words were printed. Play this, and ask about Margaret. Margaret? Who was Margaret? The question hung heavy, unspoken. A new name, a new potential victim, or perhaps something else entirely. The mystery deepened, twisted further. The officers located an old cassette player, a relic from a less digital age. The tape was carefully inserted. Click. Whir. An expectant, fearful silence filled the room. Static crackled loudly from the speakers. Then a voice emerged from the hiss. Male, heavily distorted, almost a guttural whisper. Chilling, insidious words filled the tense air. He spoke directly of this unknown Margaret, a secret she supposedly held. They said she was crazy, the voice rasped. But Margaret knew. Oh, she knew. She knew what he did, what he was. We buried the truth in that house, deep, and now he wants another, just like he did before, always before. The recording ended abruptly. Silence returned. Detective Allison Haynes felt a profound cold dread. She immediately hit the station's archives, searching for any mention of Margaret. Margaret Willow Gaines. The name finally surfaced from the dusty depths, pulled from forgotten cold case files, missing. The year was 2003. She was only 9 years old then, a child, lost to the world. Last seen walking home from school, Maple Hollow Elementary, the same school as Connor. Her route just 1 block from where he vanished. Her case went cold. No suspects, no body, no answers, until now. Haynes felt a grim, undeniable connection forming. 2 children, 2 decades apart. Same school, similar vanishing points. She brought the forensic team back down into that hidden, chilling basement, beneath the decaying floors of 39 Mulberry. Check everything again, she commanded, her voice firm. Every brick, every loose floorboard, every shadow. They had to look deeper this time. Something vital had been missed. A young forensic technician, methodical and patient. He tapped along the damp back wall, near where the child's drawing had been taped. A hollow sound echoed, different from the rest. It was distinct, promising. They pried at a section of paneling. It came away easily, a loose panel, concealed perfectly from casual view. Behind it a small, dark, recessed space, another secret chamber held by the cursed house. Inside the hidden compartment a small metal box. A simple, unassuming shoebox, its metal aged. It was rusted shut, defiant. Officers carefully forced it open. Inside, nestled on faded fabric, tarnished remains. A child's delicate charm bracelet, corroded by time and dampness, but etched clearly into its delicate clasp. 2 tiny initials, still legible. M.G. Margaret Gaines. The past was screaming, the house remembered. The rusted charm bracelet lay heavy in an evidence bag, its delicate metal, tarnished by time and secrets. M.G. Margaret Gaines. Her initials, a tiny scream from the past. This wasn't just a relic of a forgotten tragedy, it was a fresh wound, ripped open. The discovery shifted everything for Detective Haynes and her team. Margaret's cold case was suddenly intensely hot, burning with an unnerving present-day relevance. The questions multiplied, each more disturbing than the last. Who had placed it there? And more importantly, when? The archives yielded another crucial, chilling piece of information. Number 39 Mulberry Street had a troubled history, beyond neglect, beyond mere abandonment. A significant fire had ravaged the property in 2004. The blaze was substantial, the damage extensive. The original basement, where Margaret might have been held, was largely destroyed. It had to be significantly rebuilt, records confirmed. This reconstruction happened after the fire, long after Margaret Gaines had vanished in 2003. The timeline was becoming a horrifying puzzle. This meant the shoebox, containing Margaret's precious bracelet, was not an original artifact. It had not been hidden there in 2003 and simply forgotten. No, someone had deliberately placed it in the rebuilt basement. Someone had kept that bracelet for years, cherished it, or perhaps preserved it as a trophy. Then, they returned it to the house, sometime after the reconstruction, sometime after 2004. This person had access. They knew the house intimately. They knew its secrets, old and new, a ghost with keys to a reconstructed tomb. The implication sent a fresh wave of cold dread through the investigators. Ronald Pierce, the recorded owner, was supposedly dead, drowned in Maine in 2005. If Pierce was truly gone, who possessed such intimate knowledge? Who had the audacity, the chilling purpose to return, to place Margaret's memento back into the belly of that beast? The act was deeply personal, incredibly sinister. It spoke of an ongoing presence, a lingering shadow, a puppeteer still pulling strings from beyond a supposed grave. The eerie feeling that someone was watching, playing, intensified. The investigation now pivoted sharply. It focused intently on the enigmatic Ronald Pierce, the dead man whose house held living nightmares. Who was he truly? Beyond the name on a faded deed, beyond the owner of a property that had become a charnel house, detectives dug deeper into his documented life, searching for any thread, any inconsistency. They needed to understand the man tied to Margaret, and now Connor. His past was a carefully constructed labyrinth, they suspected, and they needed to find the key, the real identity. They meticulously re-examined the property's deed history. A standard investigative procedure, yet nothing felt standard here. Every document, every signature, every date was scrutinized. Then they found it. A social security number linked unequivocally to Ronald Pierce. It was a common digital fingerprint in the modern world, a unique identifier, or so it should have been. But this number held another secret. A secret that would crack Pierce's identity wide open. The system flagged an anomaly, a duplicate use. That social security number wasn't exclusive to Ronald Pierce. It pinged again in the vast federal databases. Cross-referenced, verified, it was undeniably linked to another name entirely, Thomas Vellner. The name was unfamiliar at first, a new piece in a terrifying mosaic. Who was Thomas Vellner? Why share an identity marker with Pierce? The team scrambled, pulling records from across state lines. Every detail about Vellner became critical. His life story might illuminate Pierce's darkness, or deepen the already suffocating mystery. Thomas Vellner. Records showed he was a nurse. Originally from Missouri, far from Maple Hollow's quiet streets. But his story too ended abruptly, mysteriously. He had vanished without a trace in 2006. Notably, this was a year after Ronald Pierce supposedly drowned. Vellner disappeared shortly after his wife's sudden, mysterious death. Her death was officially ruled accidental, a tragic incident. But crucial details were missing. The ruling was never fully confirmed. No thorough investigation followed. Another convenient erasure, another life seemingly dissolving into thin air, leaving only questions. The FBI's facial recognition analysts were immediately tasked. They gathered every known photograph, however grainy or old, images of Ronald Pierce, few as they were, and any available pictures of Thomas Vellner. These were fed into the sophisticated systems. Algorithms designed to find connections invisible to the naked eye, to compare bone structure, facial markers, the subtle tells of identity. The team waited, the hum of the servers a tense soundtrack, hoping for a link, dreading what it might confirm. The digital eyes began their meticulous comparison. The computer processed the data, comparing, contrasting, measuring. Then, the results appeared on screen. A percentage, a probability, a chilling 98% match. The margin for error was almost non-existent. It was statistically undeniable. Ronald Pierce and Thomas Vellner were the same man. The same chilling eyes stared back from two different sets of records, the same predatory essence, hidden behind different names. The dead man was very much alive, or had been, under another guise. One man, two names. At least two carefully fabricated lives. And beneath these constructed identities, a dark, horrifying trail. A trail littered with disappearances, mysterious deaths, and unanswered questions. He was a chameleon, adept at shedding skins, at becoming someone new, a master of evasion, of existing in the shadows between the lines of official records. The scope of his activities, his potential reign of terror, suddenly expanded. From Maple Hollow, Ohio to Missouri, perhaps even Maine. How many lives had he touched? How many had he destroyed? The thought was a chilling weight on the investigators. This was not just about Connor, or even just Margaret. The eerie presence that haunted 39 Mulberry Street now had a stronger, more terrifying form. He wasn't merely a ghost from the past, a name in dusty files. He was a tangible threat, a sophisticated predator who had operated for years, potentially for decades, undetected, unimpeded. The knowledge that this man could assume new identities so easily, that he could orchestrate deaths, his own included. It sent a fresh wave of fear through Maple Hollow. The dread was no longer a vague unease, it was a sharp, focused terror. He could be anyone, he could be anywhere, and he was clearly still active, still playing his monstrous game. The discovery of Connor's shoe was a stark, grim beacon. It lay near the cold, dead fireplace of the first remote cabin. Beside it, something even more unsettling. A map. drawn by a child's unsteady hand, crude lines in crayon, lines pointing deep into the dense, unforgiving forest. A large, ominous X marked a destination in bold red, two shaky words scrawled beneath it, a chilling plea. Don't follow, but they had to. Connor was still out there. There was no choice but to venture into that unknown. The forest waited, silent and foreboding. The sun had barely begun its ascent, painting the sky in pale hues. Officers and highly trained tracking dogs plunged into the woods. They followed the child's desperate, crude map. For over 2 painstaking hours they pushed deeper into a silence that felt unnatural, oppressive. No birdsong greeted the dawn. No wind rustled the leaves. Only the crunch of their boots on the forest floor, and the heavy, palpable tension that hung in the air. Each step was fraught with grim anticipation. What horrors awaited them at the map's end? Then at precisely 8:24 a.m., they found it. A second cabin, hidden, isolated, utterly alone. It was not marked on any official survey maps. No records indicated its legal existence, ever. It was a ghost structure, swallowed by the wilderness, as if it had sprung from the dark soil itself. A place designed to be lost, to remain unseen, a perfect hiding place for unspeakable secrets. The air around it felt colder, heavier, a silent testament to forgotten suffering, etched deeply into the weathered wood of the front door, scratched with force, with desperate finality. 3 stark letters. MGH Margaret Gaines' house. The name hit them hard. A wave of cold dread washed over the search team. This was not just a cabin, it was a tomb, a monument to a lost girl and perhaps others. They breached the door, their weapons drawn, hearts pounding. Inside, they discovered something truly chilling, a scene meticulously set, waiting for them. The interior of the second cabin was sparse, horrifyingly so. A single rough wooden table stood in the center. 4 mismatched chairs were arranged around it, as if expecting guests, or prisoners, and in the very middle of the table, an object. A single, heavy, locked metal box. No keyhole in sight, only a simple 3-digit combination lock. Its presence was a silent, taunting challenge. What secrets did it guard so fiercely? The team gathered around, a grim tableau. Below the box, scratched crudely into the table's surface, a series of numbers. 1973, Detective Allison Haynes, her mind racing through archived facts. She remembered an old forgotten detail, a piece of information from Margaret Gaines's original file. Margaret's mother, Haynes spoke, her voice low, steady. She was born in 1973, a chilling connection, a desperate hope. They tried the code, 1973. The lock clicked, open, a small metallic sigh. Inside the box, nestled on faded, worn fabric, not gold, not documents, something far more precious and far more terrifying. 8 cassette tapes, each one meticulously labeled with a specific date. The first tape's label sent a shiver down their spines. August 16, 2003, the day immediately following Margaret Gaines's disappearance. They found an old player, inserted the first tape. The whirring sound filled the suffocating silence. Then a voice, small, frightened, unmistakably a child. It was Margaret, whimpering softly, her terror palpable. "He says I can't leave this place," she whispered. "He tells me no one is looking for me anymore. But I saw them. I saw the lights last night." Her voice, a fragile echo from 2 decades past, a testament to her fear, her desperate, fading hope. The second tape, dated October 22, 2003. Margaret's voice again, but with a new, chilling addition. "I hear her sometimes, another girl, in another room. She cries too. I think she's scared like me." The investigators listened one by one to each tape. The small cabin became a mausoleum of lost voices. The tapes continued their horrifying narrative, spanning over 3 long, agonizing years. Different voices emerged, different children, boys, girls, each recording a timestamp of unimaginable suffering, a chronicle of fear, isolation and despair. The sheer scale of the depravity began to dawn on them. This was not an isolated incident, not just Margaret, this was systematic, calculated, a collection of stolen lives. The last of the 8 tapes was different. It was blank, or so it seemed at first. No childish whimpers, no whispered pleas, just the hiss of an empty magnetic reel spinning. A void where another story should have been. But the forensic audio technicians were meticulous, patient. They enhanced the faint, almost imperceptible sounds buried deep beneath the layers of static and hiss. Faint distortions, almost mist, breathing, slow, regular, unmistakably male, calm, then a whisper. The voice was low, guttural, devoid of emotion, a chilling, direct message to anyone who might listen. "Don't come here again." It was a warning, a threat. The air in the cabin grew thick with unspoken horror. The tapes were immediately secured, sent to the FBI. The Quantico labs worked around the clock. Voice analysis confirmed their worst fears. 2 of the fragile voices matched existing missing children from neighboring counties, their cases long cold. Never linked to Maple Hollow, never linked to Pierce, until now. Their dormant cases were violently reopened, shattered families notified. The investigation took an even darker, more terrifying turn, because someone had been methodically collecting children for decades, always operating in the shadows, always near small, unsuspecting towns like Maple Hollow, always where no one was truly watching closely, and always, chillingly, near forgotten wooded properties. Properties that, when traced, often led back to one name, Ronald Pierce or Vellner or Withers, the man of many faces. The monster was far more prolific than they had ever imagined. The anonymously submitted obituary for Connor Jameson sent shockwaves far beyond Maple Hollow. It was a cruel, calculated act, a public declaration of a death without a body, without confirmation. The accompanying photograph, Margaret, older, her expression unreadable, standing with a smiling Connor in a red sweater, was a masterpiece of psychological torment. Was he truly gone? Or was this another layer of the horrifying game? The FBI scrambled, their resources stretched thin, trying to trace the source of the obituary, the letter, the photograph. Each path led to a digital dead end, a ghost in the machine. The public outcry was deafening, a mixture of grief, anger, and a desperate clawing fear. Who held the power to declare a child dead? And what did Margaret's serene presence beside him truly signify? The questions echoed in the hollow chambers of a nationwide dread. Margaret's lipstick message in the Cincinnati motel room, "He doesn't need me anymore," became a focal point for the FBI's behavioral analysis unit. Did it signify liberation? Had she finally broken free from the decades of control, the psychological chains forged in basements and mirror rooms? Or was it a more chilling pronouncement? Perhaps she had fulfilled her purpose, completed a task assigned by her shadowy mentor, the man with no single name. Speculation ran wild. Some profilers argued she was a rogue element, her actions now unpredictable, potentially even dangerous. Others suggested it was a carefully crafted piece of misdirection, another move in a game whose rules remained terrifyingly opaque. The ambiguity of those 5 words scrawled in crimson was a maddening enigma. Was she a victim finally reclaiming her agency, or a pawn moved to a new square on an invisible board? The psychological profile of the man known as Pierce, Vellner, and Withers underwent a significant urgent revision. The concept of him grooming successors, once a fringe theory, now gained terrifying traction. Margaret, with her years of conditioning, her apparent reboot, seemed a prime candidate. Was the mirror not just for breaking victims, but for forging new predators? For creating replacements not just for the abducted children, but for the abductor himself? The term operational from the discovered list took on a new, sinister weight. Were some of these replaced children now active participants in the very system that had consumed their childhoods? The thought was almost too monstrous to contemplate, yet the evidence relentlessly pointed in that horrifying direction, suggesting a cycle of trauma perpetuated and weaponized. After leaving her cryptic message, Margaret Gaines vanished, again, as if she had dissolved into thin air, leaving no trace, no digital footprint, no witnesses who could provide a clear next step. The motel's surveillance showed her entering room 6, calm, composed, but no footage captured her departure. It was another impossible disappearance, another testament to the skills she had either learned or been taught. The lipstick message felt like a direct communication, a deliberate signal, but to whom was it addressed? The authorities? Her former captor? Or perhaps to other unseen players in this sprawling, dark game? Her role remained shrouded in an impenetrable fog of uncertainty, her motives as elusive as her physical presence. She was a ghost, a legend, a victim, a potential perpetrator all at once. The list of 37 names, each followed by the chilling annotation replaced. Operational became the FBI's most daunting puzzle. 37 children, beyond Connor, beyond Margaret, beyond Hannah. 37 lives stolen, identities erased, their fates unknown yet terrifyingly hinted at. Investigators launched a massive, multi-state effort to trace every single name on that list. Were these individuals now living seemingly normal lives, integrated into society, unaware of their own fractured pasts? Or were they, as the word operational suggested, active cogs in a wider, more insidious network? The sheer scale of the potential conspiracy was overwhelming, suggesting an organization that had operated with impunity for decades, a silent epidemic of stolen childhoods and manufactured identities, hidden beneath the veneer of everyday life. The Ronald Pierce entity began to morph in the investigators' minds, less a single, monstrous individual, and more a title, a role, a terrifying franchise of evil. Was he merely one node in a larger, unseen web? The mirror room technique, with its sophisticated psychological manipulation, felt too refined for a lone wolf, however cunning. Evidence began to surface. Small, disparate clues from long cold cases in other states, a similar type of hidden room, a distinctive method of silent abduction, whispers of a man who makes you forget. These fragmented pieces hinted at a terrifying possibility, a structured, albeit deeply covert organization, its tendrils reaching into forgotten corners of the country, all employing the same core methodology of erasure and replacement. A network of shadows preying on the vulnerable. A breakthrough, or perhaps another carefully laid breadcrumb, arrived in the form of an antique child psychology textbook, anonymously mailed to a university library known for its esoteric collections. Tucked within its pages a single sheet of brittle, yellowed paper. It wasn't a letter, but appeared to be a page from a training manual. It described in chillingly detached clinical language, techniques for identity dissociation and subject reintegration. Phrases like mirror therapy for persona reconstruction and cyclical ego replacement leaped out. At the bottom of the page, a small, almost imperceptible symbol was embossed. A stylized Ouroboros, a serpent eating its own tail, but with a shattered mirror fragment at its center. This symbol, previously unnoticed, was then found subtly incorporated into the design of Margaret's charm bracelet and etched onto the metal box from the second cabin. The question of Margaret's role within this terrifying network became even more pressing. Was she operational in the same way the others on the list were presumed to be? The teenage boy's voice from the mirror maze tape echoed, "He said she's nice, that she's the next mother." The term mother in this context felt profoundly sinister. Not a nurturer, but perhaps a handler, a recruiter, a figure responsible for the next generation of replaced children. Or was her reboot intended for a far more personal, more symbolic purpose within the twisted ideology of this shadowy group? The lines blurred between victim and accomplice, puppet and puppeteer, as Margaret's path intertwined with the dark legacy of the man who had stolen her life, and perhaps her very soul. Connor Jameson. His name, his face, his red hoodie. He was the present-day anchor to this decades-old nightmare. The list declared him CJ, awaiting mirror. This status was a ticking clock, a terrifying limbo. The photograph of him smiling alongside Margaret, both in red sweaters, was a cruel paradox. Did it depict a child already lost, his identity fractured, his will subverted, or was there a glimmer of hope in that smile, a sign that Margaret, despite her own horrific journey, was somehow protecting him? The FBI profilers were divided. Some saw Stockholm Syndrome, a complete assimilation into the captor's world. Others clung to the possibility that Margaret was playing a long game, her actions aimed at an endgame no one could yet perceive, possibly even Connor's salvation. Another cryptic communication arrived, this time directly to Dana Jameson's newly acquired burner phone, a number known only to the core investigative team. A single 5-second video file, no audio, grainy, shaky footage, seemingly from a hidden camera. It showed Connor, sitting on a small bed in a plain, unfamiliar room. He was drawing in a notebook. He looked up, directly at the camera for a fleeting second. No fear in his eyes, just a quiet, unsettling calm. Then the video cut. No location clues, no demands, just a chilling reminder. He was still out there, held by an unseen hand, his fate hanging precariously in the balance. The message was clear. They were still in control, able to reach out, to observe, to torment at will. The phrase, awaiting mirror, galvanized a new line of inquiry. If the Mirror Maze storage unit was one such facility, how many others existed? The FBI began a nationwide search, cross-referencing property records linked to Pierce's known aliases and suspected associates. They looked for buildings with unusual architectural histories, former funhouses, old theaters with backstage mirror rooms, abandoned psychiatric facilities known for experimental treatments. They scoured for properties with reinforced basements, windowless annexes, or unusual utility consumption patterns that might indicate hidden, continuously powered surveillance operations. It was a search for needles in a vast, dark haystack, driven by the desperate hope of finding Connor before his mirror session began, before his identity was irrevocably shattered. The feeling of being watched, of being manipulated, intensified within the task force. Small, inexplicable glitches in their secure communications. Files on their encrypted servers showing access logs from unidentifiable IP addresses. A sense that their every move was anticipated, countered. One evening, Detective Haynes returned to her locked office to find a single, fresh red apple placed neatly in the center of her desk, identical to the half-eaten one found in the basement with Connor's cap. No note, no explanation, just a silent, chilling message. The unseen hand wasn't just holding Connor, it was subtly, terrifyingly, present in their own lives, a constant reminder that this was not just an investigation. It was a game, and the opponent was always one step ahead, orchestrating the darkness from just beyond their sight. Connor Jameson remains a ghost, a name whispered in hushed, fearful tones, a waiting mirror. His ultimate fate hangs, a terrifying question mark suspended in the suffocating darkness. Margaret Gaines, the girl who lived beneath the town, remains an enigma, a shadow clad in a red sweater. Victim, survivor, or something far more complex? Her fleeting appearance on surveillance footage, her chillingly serene smile, the man, or men, the architect of this horror, Pierce, Vellner, Withers, a shape-shifting phantom. Less a single identifiable individual, more a pervasive, insidious methodology. A terrifying, self-perpetuating system meticulously designed to erase, to rebuild, to steal, and to replace. The chilling cycle of abduction, meticulous conditioning, and silent release shows no discernible sign of abating. It spins onward, an unending, horrifying echo in the silent, forgotten, shadowed places of the world. The dedicated, now profoundly shaken task force operates under a constant, chilling shadow of its own. Each painstakingly uncovered clue seems only to lead them deeper into an ever more labyrinthine darkness. They are no longer merely objective investigators, they are unwilling, terrified players in this deadly game. Pawns maneuvered on a vast, unseen board, orchestrated by an invisible, infinitely patient hand. The single red apple, left with silent mockery on Detective Haynes' locked office desk, a stark, unambiguous reminder of their own pervasive vulnerability, of the enemy's almost omniscient reach. Sleep offers little genuine respite, now frequently plagued by disturbing images of shattered mirrors and lost children. Every incidental reflection now holds a potential hidden threat, every unexpected shadow, a lurking unseen presence. They find themselves looking over their shoulders constantly, questioning the very air they breathe, the silence between sounds. The desperate hunt for answers, for Connor, for truth continues, fueled by a flickering, desperate hope, yet heavily shadowed by a gnawing, insidious fear. Maple Hollow, Ohio was merely a single unfortunate pinprick on a vast, dark, sprawling map of unimaginable suffering. The recovered list with its 37 names annotated, replaced. Operational is a horrifying testament to this. A hidden network of stolen futures, of young lives cruelly repurposed for an unknown, deeply sinister agenda. Each name on that list represents a family irrevocably shattered, a community deeply scarred, a vital truth buried. The mirror rooms, those clandestine chambers of psychological torment, are out there, undoubtedly hidden across the nation. Silent, insidious factories dedicated to the dark arts of identity erasure and terrifying psychic transformation. Then another small, plain, unmarked package arrives without warning at the FBI's main field office. Inside there is no explanatory note. Just a single child-sized white porcelain doll mask. Its painted eyes are wide, staring, unblinking. Its fixed smile is unnervingly, chillingly serene. A new symbol, a new silent threat, or perhaps a disturbing cryptic clue to the next horrifying chapter. Who dispatched this unsettling porcelain mask, and what terrible significance does it truly hold in their twisted, dark lexicon? Is it a deliberate coded message from the elusive Margaret, a carefully calculated taunt from the shadowy network, or does it represent something even more sinister, something far worse than they can currently comprehend? The chilling phrase "replaced operational" echoes ominously in the sterile, fluorescent-lit government briefing rooms. The complex investigation must now expand its focus, delving into the fractured lives of those individuals declared operational. Are they now unwitting sleeper agents carrying a dark dormant legacy, unknowing vectors of this insidious plague? Or have they become willing, active participants in the calculated perpetuation of this generational nightmare? The reflection indeed can never truly be trusted. It holds far too many carefully constructed lies, too many fractured souls. The truth remains a shattered image, its myriad pieces scattered across countless broken, bloodied mirrors. And as the desperate, frantic search for Connor Jameson relentlessly continues, one chilling question remains hanging heavy. Who is truly pulling all the strings from the deepest shadows? And what happens when the next mirror finally calls?